I don't want to use stats for this example. I just want to break it down from a completely basketball perspective, right? So we're not going to rely on stats for this. One of the reasons that Jalen Brunson is believed to be better than Trae Young is because he plays in a big market. He plays in New York, one of the biggest markets in the NBA. And because he signed such what many considered at the time to be a questioning contract in New York, and I say questioning because people weren't entirely sure if he was worth that max deal based off how he played in Dallas. And he had that expectation, had that what some would call pressure, but more so expectations, was signing that max contract. And he exceeded those expectations by being an all-star and leading the New York Knicks to the NBA playoffs, but not just the NBA playoffs, but also beating the Cavs in 5 games in dominating fashion in the first round, while losing to the eventual Eastern Conference champs in the Miami Heat in the second round. And Jalen Brunson did all this while quite frankly, while performing up to expectations. And in the media, Jalen Brunson is not perceived as a quote-unquote bad guy or a villain or the antagonist role. So he's going to get more acclaim. He's going to get more adulation from the media. While Trae Young, on the other hand, is a player that who many forget, due to recency bias, led the Atlanta Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021 by knocking down the aforementioned New York Knicks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and taking the Milwaukee Bucks to 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in all 3 of those series, Atlanta was the lower seeded team, so they didn't have home court advantage. And because Trae Young, throughout the entirety of his career, even dating back to college, was always perceived as the antagonist, the villain, the bad guy. So he's always had that role, that moniker attached to his name. And so the media is less likely to give him adulation, less likely to give him praise, and more likely to be stringent upon him. But we have to remember, guys, not only is to whom much is given, much is required, but like the old cliche or the old, saying goes from Future, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. And if you're not getting constant criticism, and if you're not getting constant quote-unquote ridicule from the sports media, then you're probably not at the level that you think you are. Notice that all great superstars get some sort of criticism. You get some sort of flack, get some sort of pushback, whether it be warranted or not. And there's levels to this. Great superstars get constant criticism. Think about the LeBron Jameses. Personally, I do believe that LeBron James doesn't get much criticism as much as people think he does. But you guys understand the point I'm saying. That LeBron James is the Kevin Durant's, the Kyrie Irvings, the Giannis's, like we talked about in the first segment. The Jokic's, the Embiid's, the Kawhi's, the Paul George's, the Jason Tatum's, the Jalen Brown's, the Jimmy Butler's, the Trae. There's levels to it in the Damian Lillard's. Though there's levels to that, the criticism in that aspect, though some guys are coddled more by the media than others, but great superstars and superstar players get some sort of level of criticism. And that is not just applied to basketball, but that's also a little bit of a life concept, life lesson as well, that if you're not getting a lot of criticism, if you're not getting a lot of what's perceived as hatred or envy from others, then you're probably not at the level that you think you are. Because once you reach a certain level of success, it rubs people the wrong way, because it starts to activate certain insecurities within the other individual, and those individuals project their insecurities in the form of hatred, in the form of envy onto you. And so if you're not getting that level of criticism, then you're not actually where you might think you might not be where you think you are. And with that, in that concept right there, that tells me everything I need to know about who is the actual better player. And yes, I understand we can't use that sort of logic of thinking in every scenario and every concept, because there's more nuance to it. But understanding that, you're not going to get, until you reach a certain level of success, you're not really going to get that type of criticism. It tells me all I need to know about this comparison between Jalen Brunson and Trae Young, because now there's a certain level of standard that's permitted and that's attached to these guys. And so because now Trae Young has, like we said, he led a team to an Eastern Conference Finals, that standard is there. And so when Atlanta does anything below that, that standard is now applied to him and to Trae Young, and if he doesn't reach that standard, it's automatically considered a failure, and now people start to criticize him. And that's not to say that Trae Young doesn't deserve his criticism. He's shown instances where he has poor shot selection, and the offense or the ball sticks with him. Even with adding DeJounte Murray, the ball sticks in his hands sometimes. He didn't gel with Nate McMillan. It's questionable how he's gelling with Quinn Snyder. There are those sorts of aspects. Or he does deserve some of the criticism that he's getting, but him getting this level of criticism and vitriol tells me that he has reached that certain level of superstardom. And Trae Young, with his performance in the 2021 Eastern Conference Finals, that was reminiscent of Isaiah Thomas, the old Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons, where you have a smaller guard being the primary offensive focal point and the leader of a team, and leading the team on a deep playoff run. And his clutch performance and his ability to come up big and close out games consistently throughout the course of those of that playoff run was very reminiscent of Isaiah Thomas. And and we have to see if Jalen Brunson has that same ability to lead a New York Knicks team on a deep playoff run, because Jalen Brunson and the Knicks, they were the 4 seed last season. They were the 5 seed last season. And when Trae Young went on his run, led that Atlanta Hawks team to the Eastern Conference Finals, they were also the 5 seed. So it's capable. It's possible to be done. So we need to see Jalen Brunson do it before I start to make that comparison of saying that Jalen Brunson's better than Trae Young. It's not there yet. I would still take Trae Young. If I had to start my franchise, I started with Trae Young. People say that Jalen Brunson is a better point guard, better floor general than Trae Young. I think that's questionable. That is a questionable topic. I don't think that's entirely true. We have seen that Trae Young can be proficient when it comes to his passing. That's honestly his best attribute, is his passing. And where Trae Young struggles is his shot selection. He had a point where he had poor shot selections first when he got in the league, but then there's a time frame between 2021 and 2022 when he improved his shot selection, and that's when his efficiency increased tremendously. But then this year he kind of backslid and went back to having poor shot selection. But if he can maintain having good shot selection and keep his efficiency rating up, there's no question that Trae Young is one of the best players in the NBA, but can be the starting point guard in a championship team. And if we're looking at that breakdown, that dynamic, I would say Trae Young is better than Jalen Brunson. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is Trae Young better than Jalen Brunson, or is Jalen Brunson better than Trae Young? Love to hear what you guys think about that. And that's what we have for this topic, for this comparison between the two players, guys. But let me know what you guys think. In our next segment, guys, we are going to be breaking down some WNBA playoff action, starting with the Suns and the Lynx. So stick around, guys. You're not going to miss any of that. We'll be right back.